square in shape.
We had a chance to see all the different areas of the garden and the concentration of the elements, the pavilions, the balconies, all in one area create this array of roof lines and sloping curves that you don't see in many of the other gardens.
The buildings around the lake are considered one of the best examples of placement of these pavilions and pagodas.
Many of the other gardens we've seen have longer views that expand outward. And in this garden, which makes it so unique, is everything is very concentrated and compact. So you get to see everything in a much narrow vista. The screening of the windows and the lacework was quite exquisite.
We saw a bunch of students up in the rockery, so we went to see what they were doing. These were landscape architecture students sitting, sketching some of the pagodas and details of the garden.
And so we met them and made some friends, and I showed them a little bit about how I sketch and do a quick little sketch for them, and I gave it to one of the students, and we shared a smile and a gesture, and though I didn't know Chinese and he didn't know English, a gesture and a smile went a long way.
The original owner in the 12th century called this garden the Fisherman's Retreat. It's been restored many times over the centuries.
This garden had many owners, and each owners over time had done additions and renovations to the garden to sort of make it their own.
And one of the later times when it was restored, around the time we were drafting our Constitution in 1785, this garden was renamed the Master of Nets, kind of an allusion to the Fisherman's Retreat, but also calling to mind some other stories and poems.
As a result, what you see here is a culmination of all those different additions and renovations, and it's a living history of the Suzhou Gardens.
Cheese! After we finished our tour of the garden, we went to the most famous restaurant in Suzhou to have a traditional meal.
This master chef let us tour the kitchen and show us how they prepare all the different meals. Right now we're in a really busy kitchen in Suzhou. We're trying to stay out of everybody's way. I've never been in a kitchen this busy before.
It is such a treat to have been invited down to see where all the action happens. This is really neat. A choreographed ballet of tofu and fish and things setting on fire, and it was just amazing to watch.
这道菜是我们松鹤楼的一个名菜。
It was truly a pleasure to actually have the chef come out and introduce each of the most popular dishes at the restaurant. We got to try each one and see what we thought. Delicious.
And this one is the shrimp with the clear broth.
Yeah. My favorite story about this one is that the name in Mandarin sounds just like the word for welcome. So it's a welcoming dish.
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
That's wonderful. It's a good one to start with.
Yeah. So this one's the braised eel.
They've taken the bones out, and they pour the hot oil in it.
Wow. That's kind of like a very savory. It melts in your mouth. It sort of dissolves.
This is the tofu with crab toe. Very silky.
Yeah. It's
Silky
very
smooth.
soft. It has a little bit of a sort of a buttery taste to it. It's kind of like a butternut squash, you know.
Or like a seafood chowder.
Or like a seafood chowder, exactly.
Are we saving the best for
Yeah,
last?
we'll save the best for last. This one definitely has the wow factor when you look at it.
It is so crazy. And the chef told us this is the way it's supposed to be, is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Oh.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, I think this is my favorite.
I can easily see why this is their signature dish.
This fish is a traditional dish. This recipe is over 250 years old. The fish itself would have come from Taihu Lake, which is really close by, the same place that all of those big, tall Swiss cheese rocks are coming from.
So it's really a local dish.
Very, very, very local. As local as it gets.
Here we are at day 5 at the Lingering Gardens here in Suzhou.
We started off in the sedan chair hall. And Lance and I were noticing the courtyards, the light really comes in beautifully.
As an architect, one of the things that I really enjoyed was looking at all the different light wells and how they brought light into some of the densely populated areas and densely structured areas of these halls.
The sedan chair hall also had some really interesting art in it. There were 4 pieces painted on porcelain. The 4 pieces featured flowers: peony, lotus, chrysanthemum, and plum, representing the 4 different seasons: spring, summer, winter, and fall. From the sedan chair hall, we went down another set of corridors, and it opened out into the refreshing breeze pavilion, which is where you get your first view of the main part of the garden, the original Ming Dynasty portion of the garden. This garden is all centered around a lake, and the lake is divided by a beautiful little bridge. And from this pavilion, we could see the bridge and the wisteria covering it.
And as we approach one of the great halls, there's a wonderful rockery right in the courtyard in front of it. And we found out that the great hall is called the 5 Peaks Celestial Hall.
This hall is also called the Nanmu Hall, for the Nanmu wood that it's built from. The Nanmu wood is really rare. It only grows in a certain portion of the southern part of China, so it's almost as valuable as gold.
I could actually touch it and feel it. It's all around you. It's in the furnishings and it's in the structure itself. I can't imagine how expensive it is.
From the 5 Peaks Celestial Hall, we went through another set of winding corridors.
So we spent a lot of time walking around, exploring the hallways and going through all these different courtyards, and you can really get lost on the eastern side of this garden. And I think that was the point of how this garden was designed, because you can quickly look at something and catch your eye and get turned around, and all of a sudden you don't quite know where you're at. And what you want to do is you always want to find center, which is the central pond. And so there's a constant play between getting lost and finding yourself again.
We discovered one of the many little bamboo groves in the garden. There's some lovely bamboo here. From the bamboo grove, we turned east. This opened out into a larger courtyard. The courtyard is designed around a beautiful Taihu stone, the largest Taihu stone we'll see. It's all one piece. It's called the Cloud-Capped Peak.
It's about 20-25 feet tall, and it commands this entire courtyard. And it's an instant tourist attraction.
At this point, it's Saturday. This garden is packed with people, everyone out enjoying the beautiful weather in the garden. Lance and I retreated upstairs to have a cup of tea, and actually, I think that was the best view of the stone. We were looking out toward the Mandarin Duck Hall, and you could see all the best features of the stone. The Mandarin Duck Hall has 2 sides. The gents' side has the typical arrangement of chairs squared off from each other, the vase, the marble mirror. The ladies' side has the typical fainting couch arrangement where they would sit and smoke and talk and eat.
One of the great scenes that we saw was this courtyard, which had this beautiful rockery. It was called the Eagle, and it was perched up really high, and it's a form looking like an eagle about to pounce on a prey.
I also noticed that some of the little light wells have these wonderful plant specimens in them. There was one light well we found that had an extraordinary tall stone, another all one-piece Taihu stone. Really fun to look at.
And what was really neat is they had these bricked carved openings, these picture windows with wonderful detail and ornamentation on them. And beyond that was light coming in from these beautiful light wells. It was a great way to solve a very technical problem.
This garden is quite big. It's over 5 acres. It's a lot to explore. So we had to come back after lunch to see the west part of the garden. The main feature of the west part of the garden are the extraordinary bonsais and miniature landscapes. This one that I'm standing next to, I can just imagine a whole little world in here.
And each one of them are so unique and so different, and they're so beautifully manicured.
There's even a little fish pond where I was doing a little drawing. Very inspiring.
As we walk through the bonsai garden, you go through the back side towards the mountain villa, which has this terrace, which gives you over 180-degree views of the central pond.
In fact, it unrolls before you just like a horizontal landscape picture.
And from there, you can see the twin ginkgo trees that splay up really high and create the framework and the backdrop to this beautiful pond.
You can see the rockery to the left, and then on the right, you see the old wisteria bridge that we saw from the other side at the Refreshing Breeze Pavilion. Finally, there's a couple of totally adorable, picturesque old boats at the end of the lake, and the staff still uses them today to clean the pond.
And it's one of the things that I really like about this space because it has a great mix of contemplative procession and whimsical adventure all at the same time. And I think of all the gardens that I've seen so far, I think this is one of my favorites.
I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. We're going to go check out the Suzhou Museum, which was designed by I.M. Pei. I.M. Pei, of course, grew up running around in the Lion Grove Garden and went on to become an incredibly famous architect.
And he's taken a lot of the elements of Suzhou architecture and Suzhou design to create his homage to his hometown. Today is day 6, and I'm standing on top of the Miao Li Puming Tower, overlooking the Hanshin Buddhist Monastery.
I'm 5 stories up. It's a little scary, but we have a view of the whole skyline of Suzhou.
It's a beautiful scene. You can see it from miles away.
We can see the Grand Canal from here. That's that main canal that connects the north and the south of China. Materials would have gone up that canal to the emperor in Beijing. The merchants down here in the south were the ones spending their money on these gardens that we're seeing.
For me, this is my first time in a Chinese Buddhist monastery, and it was very special to me because I had always loved the ideas and the morals and the values of Buddhism, and to be able to walk through a space like this was very special to me.
This temple is over 1,000 years old. When we first stepped through the doorway from the Maple Bridge, we were greeted by an initial statue of Buddha and 4 very large statues all around him. These large gold statues represent the immortals, 4 gods of the directions, north, south, east, and west, and they protect the Buddha.
The central courtyard is the main focus of this Buddhist monastery, and as you walk through it, you get this great aroma of incense.
There's lots of people visiting today, lighting candles for Buddha
and praying to the various Buddhas
and wrapping the trees with red prayer ribbons. The main pavilion is where Buddha himself sits with his 18 disciples.
As you enter the courtyard, you're flanked by what's called the Buddhas of Mercy on either side of the hall.
The pavilion on the left contains 500 arhats. These are statues, gold statues, representing very important people. These would have been like saints.
We had a chance to walk through several of the courtyards and gain access to this very elaborate tower.
It was really fun to climb to the top of the tower through narrower and narrower and narrower stairs.
You feel very peaceful here. This morning, we had the great opportunity to walk through the Suzhou Museum by I.M. Pei.
We're here at the very modern Suzhou Museum in the heart of Old Town Suzhou. This museum took 4 years to build and was completed in 2006. It was designed by I.M. Pei.
I.M. Pei is widely regarded as a master of modern architecture. He's designed buildings all over the world and has won the most famous prize, the Pritzker Prize, which is like the Nobel Peace Prize in architecture. He's designed most notably the Central Pyramid in Paris, France.
When I.M. Pei designed this building, he used the vocabulary of a lot of classical Chinese buildings and gardens that we've been seeing this week.
And what Ian Pei was trying to do there was make the art stand out. In the detail, he's created such refrain in terms of how he's put everything together. From the trusses that are lining the hallways, to the muted lights that are coming through, to the framed windows that were showing the gardens just beyond. And along the way, you get this great axial relationship and access to each one of these galleries.
When we first entered the museum, we turned to the east and explored the Contemporary Gallery, which has an exhibit by Canadian artist Dominic Besner.
Showing great artwork with vivid colors of bulls and horses and ghostly figures. The mixed media in the large format creates a commanding view.
The ceilings of these galleries are very high, and it reminds me of the high ceilings we've been seeing in all of these classical homes. When we had a chance to turn west into the other side of the building, we explored a wing that contained ancient artifacts from another temple